Welcome back to another episode of JJ Speed Shop. We are back on the 1964 and a half 1965 Mustang. If you haven't seen the videos leading up to this, I'm going to put them somewhere up over here. But a little bit of backstory. It was in a flood in St. Charles, Missouri. The engine was trashed, the transmission was trashed, rear end was trashed. We got kind of caught up in a bad case of while you're in there, so somehow it now has a Mustang 2 independent front suspension in it, a rebuilt 302, a T5 5-speed instead of a C4 automatic, and an 8.8 out of a Ford Explorer. Also, if this is the first video you've seen of JJ Speed Shop, hit that subscribe button if you like it. Ooh. Disc brakes. Okay, so here is our issue. Let me turn some light on for you. Small block Fords have a lovely oil pump that sit right here, and they hit 5 inches down from the bottom of the crankshaft. And so you can't go back. There is no rear sump oil pan for a small block Ford.
There is no going back.
And so with the steering rack sitting up so high, it's kind of where it is. It's a little further forward than it is from the factory. If you look on the firewall back here, it's a little further forward. About an inch and a half. Not crazy, but we have the engine and transmission mocked up in there. But the other issue we are having is that is as close as we can go. And we are sitting right where the factory crossmember is, but the crossmember will sit at too high. So we're gonna cut this. He cut this section out. We're gonna flip it underneath, weld it down so it kind of sits in a channel. Still maintains rigidity. We might block this up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But if you look over here, this is a tail shaft from a T5, and this is the C4 that was in it. So they're kind of lined up exactly where they would be mounted, and it's I don't know if you can see it real well. Let me go over to this side. But it's sitting up quite a bit higher. That's about where it'll sit. And that's, I don't know, 2-3 inches. So we're just taking about an inch out. It's gonna sit a little high in the car. We're still gonna have to cut the floor out, make a bigger shifter hole for it to sit through. But we just barely cleared that cross member. I don't think we're gonna have to cut that out. We have a little bit of wiggle room to go back on this engine. Like, when I say it, like, very, 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 here's my finger for a reference. Very, very little. So, we might be able to finagle it in here a little bit, but we're going to keep working on this. He's going to finish up that cross member and see where that puts us at. But we're getting very, 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 very close. The engine's in the car. That's good. Good sign. So, that didn't work at all. So, well, what we did is the problem. This guy was that it had the wrong angle, because this is actually supposed to be flipped around. So we flipped it around this way, then that way, then upside down, and then left, right, and up and down. And finally, we got this to kind of sit in there, but the holes were nowhere close. So we cut this little bracket off, made a new one, and kind of put this where it's supposed to be, lined up the transmission into the tunnel. Looks like it's, from this angle, it looks like it's kicked over to the passenger, but that's centered and lined up with the rear end. And just made this little angle bracket, lined it up, and then we're just gonna, tack that into place where it's supposed to be, and we should have pretty nice little transmission mount. And we space it out just a little bit. Ooh, come on, focus. So we can give a little bit of clearance on the top here. We're still probably gonna have to beat the floor a little bit, but T5 and a 65. Neat. Neat, 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 neat. Okay, get to welding. It's your turn. I don't think that's gonna go
it's not going
anywhere at all.
No.
Anyway, are you gonna do a little?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll turn it up a little bit.
Now here's the important part. We got pizza on the pizza thing, but the pizzazz is this is pizza. I'm hungry. I think he's hungry too. He keeps hitting a button without welding. That's fun. Pizza. Well, the transmission mount's done. Looks pretty good. And we lined up the engine, and we kind of made some mounts. They look a little rough right now, but it sits there where we want it to be. So we yanked it back out, and he's gonna make them pretty-ish and put some slots in it so it doesn't get stuck, because it was stuck coming out. Well, now that the cross member and engine mounts are done, we're gonna start working on the covers for the hole you cut from cutting the shock tower thing out. So we went to Shapiro and got us a big old sheet of metal. For this side, we're also gonna work on the brake lines now that the master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder are both in there. Since we converted this over to disc brakes, none of the brake lines really are going to line up, and the 8.8 is a little bit off from where the rear brake line went, so I got to take the rear brake line out. Brake lines and funds, and this is the tedious, not so much fun part, you know?
What we have is a hole. So I made these little plates just a little bit bigger than the hole, because what I want to do is I want to picture frame it like this, and we're going to picture frame that little piece of sheet metal right there. So basically what I did is I took the sheet metal, don't look at the red paint, and I tacked the metal on back of it. I just worked my way down to where I can kind of center the factory holes and put it in place. So I did that one. It's a little bit off. It was my first try. So we started with this top piece. And rather than buying an 1/8 inch piece of angle for 20 bucks or whatever, I split a wider piece that I had in the scrap pile. And I'm going to have this wrap around the top of the fender here. Then I'm gonna either weld it, and if I get a nice, you know, stack of dimes bead across there, I'll probably leave it. I probably won't. It'll probably look like Fido's ass, and I'm going to have to grind it down and make a nice radius and look like a vintage. So then next, I'm going to take little pieces of bar stock, cut it to fit, use an angle protractor, angle finder thingy, dude, whatever, and put a line on there. You kind of cut down on the guesswork a little bit, hopefully. You gotta plug this in. Okay, so I got it cut off. Now we're trying to split the holes, the factory holes on this thing. So I'm gonna set this to where it's right about where the holes are split. And we're gonna go ahead and tack it. Yeah, you know. I'm gonna go ahead and tack it in place and see where we're at. We're not gonna weld it. Gonna tack it in place and see just how pretty this will be. If you look at it, I just put a couple marks on it. I'll set that right there. Gonna tack it in place. I tacked that in place. We're running out of gas, so it's kind of sooty right now. We're gonna have to go to Rural King and get some more gas. So I put an angle on this end, and I'm kind of just working my way around. I practiced on the first piece. Anyway, practice on the first piece, and I know that now I need to center these right on the holes. So I don't think the other piece is going to be so awesome. But I got the angle right here. I'll probably just put that on the down to where about where the angle turns again. And put a little pudding on it and go down to the end. So, yeah, there we go. Does that make any sense at all? I know. I don't know what the technical terms are, but I'm going to go around and angle it and make it work and center it across. Basically going to wing it. Exactly right. So I'm going to tack this now.
Hang it, Bobby.
So we have this almost framed out right now, and we just kind of have it tacked in place. What we did is we kind of put the plate underneath, the one that I made. I'm splitting the holes basically because I'm going to trim a little bit off of it. So the holes will be centered on the picture frame here. So the bolts will be centered. Look kind of badass. I'll have the bolts in here right there, centered right there in place. I have one more piece I have to put in here, and then we're going to get it ready. So the thing is now, we have a guy down in Washington, Missouri making us some CNC plasma JJ Speed Shop emblems, you know, which are going to be cool. And so we don't know whether to put them down here, but if you put them down here, you can't really see them unless you're really looking for it. The engine's in the way, the exhaust manifolds, whatever. Or it could be up top where you can open up the hood and be like JJ Speed Shop right there, right in your face. No arrogance there. Okay, so anyway, moving on.
Now here's the crown jewel. We had a guy out in Washington, Missouri, CNC plasma cut these for us. His name's Logan at Precision Fabrication and Design. I'll put his Facebook page up. And here is the final look at what we're going to be doing here. I think that looks pretty tough. And then we're going to paint it black, and then have stainless bolts and probably machine turn this off so it's nice and shiny. Well, that's it for this episode of JJ Speed Shop. Stay tuned. We're going to continue working on this thing. The next thing will be throwing the engine back in, and we're hooking up an electric power steering pump from a Volvo. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. That'll be next.
From a Bobo.
AMF.